A few years ago, I started doing glider drop videos. I wanted to do a 3D printed version, but I just never got around to it. I finally started working on it again, and these are my results. Alright, so this is the completed shuttle. It's a few different colors, but it's all PETG. And when you compare it to the old one, which is all ABS, it just looks a lot cleaner. Also, I printed this one in small sections. I printed this guy, and the whole blue body is one piece. And then I printed the nose so I can fit the camera in the front, and the back fin and the elevons separately, just so I had more functionality to mess with them if I had to adjust anything. And it's plugged in right now, but I just have a 2S LiPo, a 600 milliwatt FPV transmitter with a homemade cloverleaf antenna, and just an FSIA 6 receiver, and then just two 9-gram servos. And if I just pull this up, just have elevons working. So there we go. And then it weighs about 400 grams on the scale, which is on the heavy side, but I think with enough height, I should be able to get a good glide out of it. Okay, so I'm gonna drop this with an FT guinea pig. I made some custom 3D printed parts with 11-inch props, and then a Pixhawk for the flight stabilization and GPS and all that. And then I made a custom bottom to it. Hold on, let me flip that over. All right, so this is the underside, and it's just kind of a 3D printed like mold base, I guess. And this just slots right in there. And then I have these little servo pins that just let go of it and it falls. And what's better about this one versus the old one, it's not holding it by a string or anything. It's not flipped upside down. This is right side up to begin with. So I can definitely utilize the lower heights to start this at. I chose this design mainly because I wanted to get as much battery life out of this plane. If I put it inside, I wouldn't have to endure as much drag. My only problem was if I had to bail and not drop it, it would be landing right on the glider. So that was my only concern. So this is my first attempt with the 3D printed shuttle. I'm about 300 to 350 feet. I'm not sure exactly, but it was between that altitude. And as you'll see when I drop it, I can't gain any stability and it just kind of tumbles into a dive. My big mistake here was not getting enough altitude to be able to correct this. So here's a few pictures of the aftermath, and for how hard this thing hit into the ground, it actually held up pretty well. The nose kind of exploded and it cracked right where it was glued to the body. But other than that, it held together. I decided to take a few steps back and do a little more research and testing on the foam gliders. So here's me building it. Okay, so I finished this really crude model. It's nothing special. It's just supposed to give me some good flight data because it's about the same uh, body shape and everything as the 3D printed versions. So also it has a little camera for HD recording, so I won't have to use the DVR. I'll still use it, but I'll have that HD recording. And then it has all the exact same electronics. If I can get this open. It's the exact same electronics. It's got that 2-cell battery, the FlySky receiver, and then I believe it's a 600 milliwatt. I did put a 1000 TVL FPV camera in there just to get a little better quality than I was using. One of these little mini ones before, but they're not very good. And I know this guy won't hit the ground at 100 miles an hour, so it should be fine. And then the all-up weight is, let me get my scanner. Okay, it's 232 grams, so almost half the weight of the 3D printed version. Obviously this foam literally weighs at best 30-40 grams, so that's probably why it's cutting down. Yeah, so we'll see how it flies. Alright, so this was the first successful flight with the little foam glider. When I dropped it, it worked out pretty well. It was really touchy, but I think I got a good control of it after a second. I turned it hard to the right, and I think I stalled it out, but for the most part, this is a really successful test. Sadly, this was the last test, mainly because the drop mechanism was failing on me. It kept getting stuck, and that ended up in the plane crashing in the end. I rebuilt it with 4 engines and a longer wingspan, but every day I tested it, it was way too windy to launch. So I'm going to wait a few months to test it again, to wait for spring to come around so the winds aren't as strong. I already finished building the version 2 of the 3D printed shuttle, which I'll show off in the next video.